Welcome back to Inside Bristol. I'm your host Sheridan Nichols, and I've got Jack Spurgeon here today, and he is going to tell all of us what we need to do and what we need to say if we pick up the phone and call 911.
Yeah, we have concerns obviously with the 911 calls, the amount that goes into all these 911 centers. And we want to let the general public know what to expect, what we expect from them, and how to handle themselves so that they won't be caught blindsided or not be calm enough to answer the questions, because obviously in emergency situations everybody reacts different. Stressful situations increase your ability to remain calm and have all the information that's going to be needed. And the difference between, people calling from a ground line versus a cell phone, different information comes up into the center. So that's why you need to be prepared for what information you want to give and what not to give.
So what are some of the basic things that you need to keep in mind when you call 911 in terms of what you say?
Well, calling 911, the thing that we initially need to know is what type of emergency is it? Is it fire? Is it police related? Is it disturbance? Is it some kind of natural incident? Is it whatever it may be? Give that information up front. People sometimes are hesitant to call because they're thinking, is that emergency? Is that a not emergency? Well, we can let the dispatchers make that decision. If you say, okay, there's somebody laying on the ground over here that don't appear to be conscious or whatever, it's better to get those calls and for us to respond and find out, well, they might just be tired or maybe having too much to drink or something or
just
whatever.
Better to call and have facts together.
Yeah, basically, what is the emergency? What's your location? Because if you're dialing from a cell phone or you're dialing from a ground line, obviously the ground lines will give an address of that location to the dispatch center. Cell phones, depending on the capability of the locations and dispatch centers, won't give them all that much information, so you're going to have to know where you're located at. So if you're on the corner, let's say State Street and 5th Street, for example, the emergency's at this location. You need to have that, you need to talk slow so that they can understand it. And then whatever you tell them the emergency is, then it'll prompt questions from the dispatcher to say, okay, if the emergency is a medical emergency, what are you seeing? What are you doing? Maybe you can intervene somewhat till the responders get there. So it'll prompt questions. And the other things you need to know is if it's a crime or if it's a situation that you may be worried about some individual or somebody trapped, or obviously with motor vehicle accidents, kind of give them all the descriptions you can because that'll be relevant. But the main thing is to don't hang up till they're through asking all the questions, and they may keep you on the line till emergency responders.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I really like the fact that if you do call and you have something, is that generally they'll just keep you on the line until somebody shows up, which is really nice and it's calming, and usually they can start pulling things out of you, which is nice too. Because
obviously if you're on a cell phone too, they'll want to know your cell phone number in case there is a disconnection, because signal plays a big part in that, so that they can call you back. But in most cases they'll keep you on the line because they can keep gathering information as you can get your bearings or maybe get more information. They've already started the emergency responders, and then they can start feeding them information because we can develop a plan of action en route based on all the information we gather. And the more information we got, the better off we can intervene with the situation rapidly. So that's the key, And the other thing is if you accidentally dial 911, don't hang up, because they'll
think
either problem. They'll send officers out to that location to do a check, or sometimes you have kids who may just do that accidentally too as well. So you can get that information up front, then they won't send responders out there, or they may do it just to check to make sure you're right. Because there could be emergencies there where you may be in a situation where somebody has broke into your house and you hang up, and so sometimes those could get dropped or they send somebody out. The best thing to do is, if you can't talk, just leave the line open so that way there is a way for them, they can hear maybe what's going on in the environment, they'll be responding emergency personnel, and then they can still feed what information maybe they can hear from just the line being open.
Lots of good tips. Am I missing anything, or was there anything else we need to know? We should definitely go over this stuff with our kids too, because they learn pretty early 911.
Yeah, it's important to know that, because there's very few, but there may still be locations where you still have to dial a regular phone number. They don't have the 911 communications, but it's good to start training them on what they need to be aware of and what information they give out. And obviously, if you dial from your ground line, it's going to give you your address, so be aware that if that's not the emergency location, the best thing to do is say, this is not the emergency location, it's across the street at address such and such, or down the road, or whatever it is, so that they can go ahead and dispatch the right location. Because we've been dispatched sometimes to the ground line location and the emergency be maybe 2 houses up the street or something.
Oh, gotcha.
Because if you do have an emergency, in some cases you may not be dialing from your house, and it may be your house where you went to the neighbor's house to dial 911.
Gotcha.
So, and keep
All
your
good
batteries
tips.
charged with cell phones so they're not low if you need to dial 911.
If you have an iPhone, get a Mophie. Those things are amazing. They keep your battery forever, thank goodness. So I'm in agreement. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, and thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you next time. That's all for Inside Bristol.